What's going on, everybody? Welcome to another brand new installment of Renegades Reviews, exclusively here as always on the Casa D18 Studios channel. I, of course, am your host, the Renegade JJ Williams, and today's episode is being rebroadcast, as always, every other Friday on the Jeff Meacham Network. Thank you very much, Mr. Meacham, for allowing us to invade the time slot normally occupied by the dads, not always on wrestling. And today is going to be a doozy because we are going to discuss Abbott and Costello Meet Frankenstein, starring Bud Abbott, Lou Costello, Lon Chaney Jr. in the role of the Wolfman, Bela Lugosi returning to the role of Dracula for the first time since 1931, Glenn Strange in the role of the Frankenstein Monster for his third take on the role, along with Lenore Aubert, Jane Randolph, Frank Ferguson, and a brief cameo at the very end by Vincent Price as the Invisible Man. What's going on, everybody? Thank you for joining me here once again for another brand new installment of Renegades Reviews. And like I said during the introduction, man, this one is going to be a doozy. This is the film that first exposed me to the Frankenstein Monster, to Dracula, and to Lawrence Talbot, the Wolfman. Abbott and Costello meets Frankenstein. This was my first exposure to those monsters. This was my first exposure to the Universal monsters in general. This was my first exposure to horror movies. And yes, this really doesn't count as a horror movie. It's very much more a comedy, kind of in the same vein as Scary Movie. Scary Movie is very much a comedy. It parodies horror movies, but there are definitely horror elements. You know, the Ghostface character still kills people in Scary Movie. The Frankenstein Monster, Dracula, and the Wolfman are still out to hurt people in this film. But it's definitely toned down a little bit more because it's 1949. Or excuse me, it's 1948. There's a lot more things, there's the code involved. So it's very much a tame comedic horror movie. And I honestly feel like this should be the jump off point anytime a kid wants to get into horror. Show them this first, and if they can watch it and see the monsters in all their glory and not get scared because it's more comedic, then show them Frankenstein, show them Dracula, show them the Wolfman, and let them see the stories. Because this is very much a standalone film. But I've already talked for over 4 minutes, and I haven't even gotten to the synopsis yet. So let's bring it back into this, and let's get started here, shall we? Now, as our movie opens, Lawrence Talbot makes an urgent phone call from London, England, to a railway station in Florida, where Chick Young and Wilbur Gray work as baggage clerks. Now, Chick Young is Abbott, Wilbur Gray is Costello, just to get that out of the way. Talbot tries to warn Wilbur about a shipment due to arrive for McDougal's House of Horrors. However, before he can finish warning Wilbur, the moon rises, and Talbot transforms into the Wolfman, causing Wilbur to believe that the call is a prank. Meanwhile, McDougal has been there all along, and he demands that the crates be personally delivered to his House of Horrors for inspection before being accepted. Chick and Wilbur deliver the crates after hours, and when they go to open the first crate, they find Dracula's coffin. When Chick leaves the room to retrieve the second crate, Wilbur begins to read The Legend of Dracula, and the coffin suddenly opens, with Dracula rising and sneaking out. Wilbur is so frightened by all this that he can barely articulate a call for help. When Chick returns, he refuses to believe the story that Wilbur tells him. The boys then open the second crate, and then when Chick leaves to greet McDougal, Dracula hypnotizes Wilbur, finds the Frankenstein monster in the second crate, and reinvigorates him with a small jolt of electricity to his electrodes. Dracula and the Frankenstein monster then leave, causing McDougal to find the crates empty. So as a result, McDougal has Wilbur and Chick arrested. That evening, Dr. Sandra Mornay welcomes Count Dracula and the monster to her island castle. And Sandra has been seducing Wilbur all this time as a part of a plan that she's been executing for Dracula in order to give the monster a more obedient brain, Wilbur's brain. Because Wilbur's portrayed as this sort of bumbling, innocent, lovable goof. It's the way Costello is portrayed in most all the movies. Abbott's the straight man, Costello's the goof. Meanwhile, Wilbur and Chick are bailed out of jail by Joan Raymond, who's an undercover insurance investigator, who also fakes an attraction to Wilbur, hoping to gain information for her investigation. So Wilbur invites Joan to a masquerade ball that evening as a result of being bailed out as a thank you. When Talbot arrives in the States, he rents an apartment directly across the hall from Wilbur and Chick and asks them to help him find and destroy Count Dracula and the Frankenstein monster. Wilbur agrees to help, but Chick remains skeptical. Wilbur, Chick, and Joan then go to Sandra's castle in order to pick her up for the ball. While there, Wilbur answers a telephone call, which ends up being from Talbot, who informs Wilbur that they are currently in the house of Dracula. Wilbur reluctantly agrees to search the castle for evidence and soon stumbles upon a basement staircase where he has a few close encounters with the monsters themselves. While all this is going on, Joan discovers Dr. Frankenstein's book, The Secrets of Life and Death, in Sandra's desk, while Sandra discovers an insurance investigator's identification card in Joan's purse. A suave Dr. Lejos, a.k.a. Count Dracula, then enters the room and introduces himself to Joan and the boys. We are then introduced to Professor Stevens, who is also working at the castle and decides to attend the ball as well. The naive professor, however, begins to question some of the specialized equipment that has arrived, and after Wilbur says that he was in the basement, Sandra fakes a headache and tells the others to go to the ball without her. In private, Sandra is then questioned by Count Dracula about her sudden headache, and she tells him that she feels that they are not safe right now to conduct the experiments. In response, Dracula turns her into a vampire. At the masquerade ball, Talbot accuses Dr. Lejos, who has now decided to attend as well, of being Count Dracula. But nobody takes Talbot seriously, and Joan soon disappears. Sandra then lures Wilbur to a quiet spot in the woods and attempts to bite him, but she fails. While searching for Joan, Talbot once again transforms into the Wolfman and attacks McDougal. Since Chick's costume is a wolf, McDougal accuses Chick of the attack, but Chick is able to escape and ends up witnessing Count Dracula hypnotizing Wilbur. Chick is also hypnotized and rendered helpless, while Dracula and Sandra bring Wilbur, Stevens, and Joan back to the island castle. The next morning, Chick and Talbot meet up in the bayou and set up to rescue Wilbur and Joan. Wilbur is quickly freed, but Dracula uses hypnotism to call him back. As Sandra prepares to cut into Wilbur's brain, Talbot and Chick burst in to save him. Chick knocks out Sandra with a chair, and Talbot tries to free Wilbur, but transforms once again into the Wolfman. Frankenstein's monster is able to break free of his bonds, and Sandra tries to control him, but the monster throws her out of the window. After an extended chase through the house, Dracula attempts to flee as a bat, but the Wolfman is able to pounce on the bat as the two fall to their deaths. Chick, Joan, Wilbur, and Professor Stevens all flee in boats after Stevens sets the pier ablaze while the monster is standing on it, causing him to die in the flames. As our movie ends, Wilbur scolds Chick for his earlier skepticism, causing Chick to remark that they have nothing to fear now. However, when the Invisible Man addresses them from the boat's thwart, it causes Wilbur and Chick to jump into the lake and swim away in terror. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm not going to waste any more time. I talked at length at the beginning of the film. Let's get straight into this. Welcome to the show, the man, the myth, the legend, the owner, operator, CEO of the Jeff Meacham Network, Jeff Meacham himself. Jeff, thank you very much for joining me today. I am excited to be here with you. I'm excited to talk about this film. I already know why you're here for this one, but go ahead and tell the viewers the cheapy way. What is it that brought you to Abbott and Costello meets Frankenstein?
Well, there are a couple things. First of all, it fell on the replay day because as you guys are watching this at 6 o'clock Eastern, which you should be on the Renegades channel because that's what we encourage you to do on this channel, or at 7 o'clock if you're a cheap bastard and want to wait for my stupid ass, that's fine, whatever. I figured go ahead and put it up there because the second reason we're doing this on this particular episode is because as you guys are seeing this background is legit. Because I'm on the Jericho cruise. We're out to sea somewhere in the middle of the freaking Atlantic Ocean. So me being on a different episode this weekend's not going to happen. So I figure, what the hell? I'll jump in. I literally researched Chris Jericho cruise steam cabin backgrounds, and this happened to pop up, and it looks actually decent. So I also chose this one because this is the one that this was, as you put it, your gateway drug to the Universal monsters. This was the one that fed you into the system, if you will.
Yes.
And I really wanted to see it. I had not seen it. I literally stopped recording, or stop recording because I'm that cool like that. I stopped watching. Let's see. As we roll this, I stopped watching literally a half hour ago. Right now on the button.
Okay.
And you're not going to like me because up until the big, the chase shenanigans starts and they're going out of rooms and Bud and Lou can't decide between Dracula and the monster or Larry's transformation into the back. I was sitting there dozing off, and I feel terrible for that. But I was just it's funny. It is hysterical. Abbott and Costello are always funny, and I love those guys. Who's on first is a continual source of love in this house because it drives the boy crazy. It's so funny when we start doing offshoots of that, and he just gets so verklempt about it, flummoxed, what the hell? Who's on first? And we'll go. My dad will just go into it, and he will lose his mind. I just don't. And again, this is literally first time. It didn't work for me the entire whatever it was, the entire run of the movie, having them interact with the monsters, having having Larry's affliction be almost a ha-ha at this point, after just seeing the whole way through the Wolfman, I'm like, no. Having anybody but Boris as the monster is throwing me off. And I know like everybody played the monster at some point in these series, so it is what it is there.
Yeah, we've had a total of 4 Frankenstein monsters.
Yeah.
And there was Karloff for 3 films.
Right.
Then Chaney took over for the Ghost. Lugosi played it in Meets Wolfman, Frankenstein Meets the Wolfman. And then Strange picked it up for House of Frankenstein, House of Dracula, Abbott and Costello Meet Frankenstein.
Right. So I swear it has nothing to do with the fact that what we talked about yesterday. It may have been there a little bit, but when the monster is like stalking them toward the camera out of the one of the rooms, I swear I thought more Herman Munster when I saw Glenn than I saw Glenn. Like it looks like Fred Gwynn chasing them down the hall because of the goofy expression on the face. And I understand that.
Don't mean to cut you off there. I was going to say it's interesting that you say that, because the Herman Munster makeup was based off of the Strange variation of the monster.
Yes, I did. I did read that.
That scene where the monster encounters Wilbur in the House of Horrors and sees him for the first time, is kind of like, and backs off. Very Herman Munster-esque.
Yes. And I forget our conversation yesterday, so forgive me, but my love of the monsters over the years, I get so influenced by that. And I have known the entire time I've been a Monsters fan that the makeup for the entire show was based on the Universal monsters, which the name is escaping me, so I'm sorry.
Jack
and then the Westmore family took over after that. I know the Westmore family because their descendant, if you will, became the Star Trek makeup guy. So they're all tied in together. It's a weird ass family, but yeah, it was funny. I enjoyed the humor. It's just, for me, I enjoy, and again, this may be an inadvertent kissing of your ass, I don't know, but I enjoy the purity of the monster being scary inadvertently for scary's sake. I enjoy Larry being horrified at his affliction and not making comedy of it. I enjoy Bela Lugosi's Dracula, not going for the laughs and talking very little compared to how he talked in this movie. Like, I mean, you very rarely hear him say a hell of a whole lot in 1931, and he's just blah, 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 blah. I'm like, ooh. So I think I unfortunately allowed my love of the classic stories to influence me, whereas you, having seen this first and then going back and going, okay, I think that's where the disparity comes in between you and I, and that's an unfortunate byproduct of me watching these during your month as we go. It kind of is what it is, because you're watching them chronologically, basically. So
I can understand that. I mean, if you've gotten wrapped up in the seriousness of the tales as they unfold, then this can be a very polarizing movie, and I get that.
Yes.
Larry is still very much afflicted.
Well, yeah.
But if you go back to the Wolfman, nobody ever believes him when he tells people about this.
Right.
So it's a very common thread that's run through all of the films he's appeared in.
True.
This time, it's played a little bit more for the ha-ha,
right?
But still, nobody believes him.
No.
And that's part of the tragedy of the Talbot character, is like, you look into his eyes, why does this man need to be lying to you?
Yeah.
What is he going to gain except being sent to a nut house?
Right?
Like, I'm trying to be honest with you people, and nobody wants to listen to me.
Yeah. I find the irony in the man crying wolf not being believed is not lost on, I'm sure, either one of us at this point.
Right. but it also kind of ties back to what we discussed when you joined me for Frankenstein, and that childlike mentality.
Right.
A kid trying to tell people something, there's a monster under my bed, and nobody wanting to believe the kid.
True.
Larry just wants somebody to believe him. And as you've watched the stories progress, Larry is always kind of pushed to the side for the monster.
Yeah, I wasn't a fan of that either, and maybe it's because I have such a strong affinity for the Wolfman because of being associated with you for so long, and I love that character. I've loved the story. I love Chaney. Period. So it's even reading those golden book size things in elementary school, I gravitated toward the Wolfman stories because I don't know. It's something about the character, something about the story, and I did find it funny enough. We talked about this last week on the sports bar, maybe whenever it was when we came back after being gone for a couple weeks, and we showed off that you had your Talbot jersey from the Wild. I didn't know his first name was Larry. I thought that was hysterical. It's like it's actually Larry Talbot's hockey jersey, and the guy's playing for the Wild for real. I think it's just funnier than hell, but just funny how that worked. I only knew that because I went to the game on this last Saturday, and yeah, there they are. Oh, there they are. Son of a bitch. Yeah, I mean that's and if you look at them on a bookshelf, that's this big shelf of orange just straight across with black letters. The black letters are very. I liken them to the Chucky text or the Halloween text. It looks very similar to that on the spine. Anyway,
I had to get that picture. I actually referenced that the other day when I discussed Frankenstein meets the Wolfman. Yes. So I had that picture on my hard drive. I just had to re-upload it real quick. So
I appreciate that. Yeah, because I had not seen those since 1995, and that's when I go to elementary school. So there you go. But
almost 10 years earlier for me.
Yeah, I know, but that's okay. Yeah, it was just funny that I found out his first name was Larry because I had a roster sheet for the Kings Minnesota game, and they beat the Kings, and life sucked. Because Kings were in mid-season form already, as they do. Anyway,
right. Yeah. Well, it's what happens when Jonathan Quick's in the net. Anyway, back to a different type of monster.
Yeah, I like I said, I think I may have been skewed. I think if I went back and watched, took a little break from the monster, which I will be doing come November 1st, obviously, when we do your next month, which I think is awesome. And we'll get to, and I touched on that earlier in the week during all my shows actually. So, but I think if I go back in a little while and watch the Abbott and Costello ones on their own, I'll have their appreciation for it because, like I said, those guys are legendary. They're funnier than hell. You can't go wrong with Lon Chaney Jr. as the Wolfman or Bela Lugosi as Dracula. Glenn Strange, again, he has to step into some pretty big boots. He's following all three of them as the monster. That's got to be a bitch. Yeah. It really does. And the fact that the Munsters developers based Herman's Frankenstein Monster look on Glenn speaks volumes of how great a job Glenn did in this. Yeah, I'm not shitting on Glenn's job at all here.
If you look at the monster underneath me there in the image, it very much looks like Herman Munster.
Yeah.
Just sitting there waiting to be woken up to do the sitcom.
It looks much more like Herman than what Rob Zombie released last weekend. Oof. Anyway. Sorry, Rob. It's going to be a long October for you next year on this channel, on these channels, brother. Oofa. Anyway. But like I said, I didn't hate it, and I didn't and I'm not going to give it a negative stars or whatever. It's just, it felt off, I guess is what I'm trying to get at. It didn't feel like I didn't have as good a reaction to it as the original Monster, the original Dracula movie, the original Wolfman movie. Like I think, and again, I've had a chance to watch all the compilations, if you will. they all feel like jumbled to me. Like it's just they're trying too hard when they put them all together, because they gotta milk that teat for every last freaking drop of dairy. It's like, man, like let him breathe, brother. So
I can definitely co-sign on that for the two House movies, House of Frankenstein, House of Dracula. Even though I gave House of Frankenstein pretty high marks the other day,
right,
because I feel like that one and Frankenstein meets the Wolfman, those two at least, everything kind of like kinetically molded together.
right.
House of Dracula, I definitely feel was a stretch, and I talked about that the other day as well. But for me, when it comes to this film, it's the lighthearted nature in which these scary monsters that haunted our parents and even our grandparents are presented. You know, they're presented in a very lovable way.
Right.
You know, a way that makes you not afraid to approach them when they come chasing you at the Universal theme parks.
Very true.
Very true. You want to run up to Frank and give him a hug instead of chasing away from him.
Yes.
And a lot of that is from this film.
Okay.
Even Dracula, who is still sinister in this film,
yes,
is nowhere near as diabolical as he is in 1931. And dare I say that a lot of the Dracula mystique and the suaveness that the character has produced and shown over the years very much stems from Professor Lejos and his presentation in here. Not to say that Bela wasn't suave in the original,
right?
But you look at the way he comes down those stairs in that smoking robe and just commands the scene. And it's like, look, bitches, the star is in the room now. Eyes on me.
It's very much Hugh Hefner walking down the steps of the Playboy Mansion. Like, all right, I'm in charge now. That's enough. And what's so funny, you mentioned the year. That just clicked in my head. This is 17 years after the original Dracula movie with Bela. And he's still, not to throw a modern claim on him, he's still big pimping. He's like, I'm still Dracula. I don't age. Sandra, okay, and Joan, come here. You know. And even poor Wilbur's like entranced. So and Chick also. So
very much so. It's a shame that you didn't gravitate towards this the way I had hoped you would. What's really sad is Lugosi died less than a decade later.
I was gonna say he
8 years later he was gone.
Yeah, and it's one of those where I've always said when it comes to music, I was born far too late. When it comes to horror movies and good classic scares, born way too late also.
Yeah.
Because
I would love to have seen these films as they were coming out, because I probably would have been scared to death.
Yeah.
Being raised on Freddy, Jason, Michael, Chucky, etc., we can do the laundry list of slashers that have graced our screens pretty much ever since Psycho.
Yes.
You get kind of desensitized to scares like this.
I'll agree with that, and I'll tell you why. You and I both held off on showing Dylan the really heavy duty, gory, scary stuff when he was younger by design. He watched these. He came in yesterday having watched the first 30 minutes of Freddy's Dead. He went, that was the stupidest damn thing I've ever seen in my life. I'm like, Freddy's Dead's pretty bad. I'll give him that one. But he was even punking on the original where he's running down the street with like a monkey with his arms flailing. I'm like, my 13-year-old just basically called Freddy Krueger a puss, and I'm okay with it. Because he's, like you said, he's been, whether that's good or bad that he's been desensitized at this point. I mean, he's a teenager now, so it's like it's not as big a deal as, showing him Tim Curry's Pennywise at 3 years old. That was a little controversial, but I told him, I'm like, look, your mother has been against watching Freddy your entire life, damn near her entire life. She wants to show it to you, whatever. So he watched the classic Freddy stuff, up there with her last weekend, and apparently did okay with it. So much so that by the time he got back here, he was on 6, and it was like, Lord, I'm sorry, because that's the first one I saw was Freddy's Dead. It was like the first one I saw was Freddy's Dead and Child's Play 3 of those two franchises, and people go, "Oh, I'm so sorry," and now I understand why.
Right?
It's like, again, I will not hate on Child's Play 3 only because Andy Barkley is played by the same guy that plays Jimmy Olsen and Lois and Clark, so that's okay with me. But it's tough, and even Don's been like, it's tough. These, I feel like the ones that came later, like after the initial outings of all the different monsters that have come over the years during the 30s, 40s, and early 50s, like it again. Like you said, the house ones are very much like, let's just throw everybody in the pot and see what happens. And it feels that way. This one wasn't quite that jumbled for me, having watched those already now.
Yeah.
But it was still a tougher sell than I had thought it was going to be. And I'm as bummed as you are about it, I think, because it was like, I really wanted to like freaking 5-star this and co-sign on the warship. And it was like, I can't do it.
It's all good, I mean, to each their own. But like I said, for me, I feel like any child that wants to get into horror movies, this is where they need to start.
Agreed.
I said it in my introduction before I got into my synopsis, before I brought you on.
Right.
Because this was my gateway.
Right.
It presents the 3 monsters, 2 of which are being played by the original actors.
Yes.
In a way that is less threatening. We won't say non-threatening.
Right.
But far less threatening than in their own series.
Right.
And I even go as far, you didn't hear this part because it was before you came on. I even went as far as to compare this, in a sense, to Scary Movie. Okay. Because although the kills in Scary Movie are very much more Scream-esque in the humor aspect of it, because the Scary Movies are a parody of their source material.
Right.
This very much is similar in that presentation aspect.
That's true.
And had Scary Movie been made in 1948, when this was made, it probably would have been about as tame as this.
True.
You have to think about the times.
Well, and again, I've said it all month for you. A lot of these are pre-code.
This is pre-code, I believe.
Okay, well, a lot of these are pre-code. Yeah. Some of them are post. Like I said, this one I'm sure is at this point. I mean, by 48, I think they had figured it out. But it's funny you mentioned this is like a good gateway for the kids, because we showed Dylan the original Boris Karloff Frankenstein at the same age we showed that he saw it, and he loved it, and he wanted to see more. And here you go, kiddo. I think he probably have. What's that?
It's an open Pandora's box.
Right. I think he'd have a similar reaction to this as I'm having, because he saw the class. I'm not gonna say good, because this is good too. The classic ones first. So I have a feeling if he sat down and watched it, he's at school, so he better be watching. If you're watching this right now and you're in school, shame on you, kid. But of course we're not live, so you can't be watching. So that was a completely useless take. That's okay, but we'll go ahead and move along. I think if he watched the ones he watched as a kid, which I think we ended up showing him the originals of all of them at one point or another. I think watching House of this and Abbott and me, I think he'd be like, yeah, I'm a teen Mrs. Lame compared to seeing them before. And again, that's just my observation of my son. I don't know how your daughter is with the classic monsters. I don't think we ever watched them with her that I was there.
To my knowledge, she still has not seen any horror movies. She has no desire to watch horror movies. And I'm like, sweetheart, at least watch like this. At least watch like the classic Universal ones with me. Like,
right.
Give it the chance.
Yeah. There's still on my Facebook timeline that post of the kids dressed as Chucky and Tiffany, and you and I going, and Teresa and Jade going, no. So we try, damn it.
I still think that would have been the greatest costumes ever.
You know what?
They were like 5-6 years old.
Well, I mean, think of it this way. For the God, this is going to scare me and age us both here. The 25th anniversary of Bride of Chucky is in 2 years.
I know.
They're going to be still teenagers at that point. Can always revisit. I was going to say 30th, but that's like they're going to be adults by then. They're not going to give a shit about it.
But it won't be as cute as it would have been when they were little and would have
looked
like the dolls running around.
No, that's true. But knowing both of their flair for creativity and their makeup possibilities could be pretty cool. But we'll see. Anyway, that's a whole other series. That's next year's Renegades Reviews October.
Yes. We've still got a lot to plan for next year. But
Yes.
We interrupt this episode of Renegades Reviews for an important announcement about
merchandising.
Merchandising? What's that?
Merchandising. Come, I'll show you. Merchandising, where the real money's made.
Make sure you go over to teespring.com/stores/Jeff Meacham Network for all the t-shirts you see here from the West Coast professor, Jeff Meacham himself. You can get shirts for the Jeff Meacham Network, Talk Wrestling, as well as the red and gold Meachamania shirts. And while you're there, don't forget to get your shirts of the Casa D18 Studios Brotherhood, the Dads on Wrestling shirt, the Renegade JJ Williams, Statboy Sports Bar, and the hashtag StatBoyApproved shirt. Make sure you go over to teespring.com/stores/Jeff Meacham Network and score your shirts today.
I know you want my stars, Lord.
Let's go ahead and get to that because I can't really feel of anything else to go on about because you don't enjoy it to the level I do. I won't say you don't like it, but you didn't enjoy it to the level I do.
It was one of those things where I found it to be less entertaining than the classic stuff. I won't say I didn't like it. So we're
really quickly, right? Really quickly, what did you think of the cameo at the end of the film?
That was great. I wish they would have said who it was. Was it Claude?
It was Vincent Price.
Are you shitting me? Well, that just bumped it up a whole half a point. I'm not gonna lie, because I love the Invisible Man. So
you
okay.
Didn't recognize the voice speaking to you?
Yes,
holy hell! Like Bela Lugosi and Vincent Price have like two of the most recognizable voices out there.
Wow, I'm ashamed of myself on levels.
You should be.
Since we had dads yesterday, and we talked about Thriller and Vincent Price and how we couldn't include that in the song, that part of the song, because the show would be 2 extra hours just based on that alone. Lord. Okay, well, hell. Out of 5, right?
Yes, out of 5. Halves are allowed, no quarters, no 3/4.
Well, I had it 4.5, so you mentioned who the Invisible Man was, so I guess we're back at 5.
Wow. Okay.
Because I said, man, I love the Invisible Man. He's been my favorite besides the Wolfman. And if it's Vincent Price playing the Invisible Man, that's like the opposite of when Aaron does the ratings on the shows. And okay, contract signing lowers it a letter grade. Tag team match out of the first segment, just lowers shit down. Vincent Price's cameo in anything horror, 0.5 point up at least. So,
okay,
5 out of 5.
Well, for me, it's definitely 5 out of 5. If I was, other critics and would go above the 5-star rating, this would definitely get that for me because it's it's one of those films that I just adore so much. I don't need a reason to put Abbott and Costello Meet Frankenstein on the screen. This one and The Wolfman are the only two that I would give that honor to of going above my 5 stars.
Those are your Okada Omega series.
Yeah, I mean, you know, Okada Omega or Punk Joe in ROH.
True.
You know, I hold those in a different category.
Right.
It's like there's horror, there's Universal Monsters, there's Abbott and Costello meets Frankenstein and the Wolfman. Like, they are in a league of their own. And no, I'm not talking about Tom Hanks and Gina Davis. We
Another
did that one in
5-star movie,
January. We won't get to that one next month because we already did it.
We already did it earlier.
But
I was there.
There's just so much great storytelling for this standalone film. They still bring Larry's story still kind of connects through everything.
Right, which is cool.
Even though it's a standalone film, his plight and his anguish and his people not believing his truth very much from 1941 to 1948 and over the course of 5 films is very prevalent and in the forefront. How Dracula and how the monster ended up coming into the story, okay, that's a little bit, that's part of what makes it the standalone.
Right.
Because it doesn't follow any of the previous timeline.
Yeah.
But then you throw in the duo of Abbott and Costello. And, you know, we mentioned it when we did recap at the beginning of the month, you know, when on what would have been Abbott's birthday. When Groucho Marx calls you the greatest straight man in history, that's saying a lot. That is some heavy praise.
Oh, very much so.
And I mean, you just look at the image of the two of them above us, and Abbott is like looking intently, and Lou is just playing it for the laughs.
Yeah. Yeah. I will say,
I don't hold against Lou because he was the funny man.
Yeah. I will say this. The humor definitely made it more enjoyable. Like I said, it like I said, there was a lot of disconnect for me. You mentioned the monster and Dracula was kind of, oh, hi, they're here. You know, at this point. But yeah, Bud and Lou definitely helped. I mean, Lou's just constant diving into shenanigans unexpectedly, unintentionally, every damn time. I'm not gonna lie. The bit at the door when Larry transforms and he's got the piece of fruit. Like, I wonder if he counted these. And that's what kind of killed the Larry part for me because Larry's like waiting at the door, like, okay, like if I'm Larry, the minute that thing clicks, I'm busting that shit down. Like if I'm the Wolfman, I'm crazy. And that was kind of like, okay, that was a little bit over the much, but okay. And I will say this for the makeup people over the course of 7 years, man, his transformation just hit on point as far as the makeup job. And then you actually see the transformation in this, which I don't think we'd seen in the previous
We saw it a couple times, but it definitely was not in the first Wolfman. The only thing you really saw as far as the transformation go was the feet.
Right. I mean, but they are like on his face here. Yeah,
I want to say either by Frankenstein Meets the Wolfman or by House of Frankenstein, we were seeing the full facial time-lapse transformation.
And granted, you can tell it's a 40s time-lapse transformation. You can tell what they're doing, but still
epic. You got a product of its time.
Right, exactly.
You got to keep that in mind when we look at this. That was freaking groundbreaking.
Oh, yeah.
That time-lapse transformation was the equivalent of Yoda flipping around and having a lightsaber battle in Attack of the Clones.
Yep.
It was the same thing for its time.
Yep.
It was that brilliant. And you want to talk about transformations. Another one of the things that I really love about this one that I think we only saw otherwise, if I remember correctly, in House of Dracula, was the transformation of the bat flying into the silhouette of Dracula,
Right.
because they went from animated bat to live action actor. And I've always loved that.
Yes.
That was one of the things that even as a wee little lad,
yes,
attracted my eye and was like, ooh, that is so cool.
Yeah.
To where when I finally went back and I watched the 31 Dracula, I was disappointed that Lugosi didn't do that in that. But again, that's 17 years difference. And look at what evolved in movie making in those 17 years.
And you have to figure, like I said, these really, your Cheney senior Phantom notwithstanding, the real quote unquote timeline of these guys is 31.
Mm-hmm.
The evolution in just 17 years, when you think of the 17 years being the 30s and 40s, is monumental. Like you said, groundbreaking. The type of stuff, granted, the type of stuff they did in the 17 years would be done like that, post Phantom Menace, right?
Mm-hmm.
But or even post Forrest Gump, I'll say. But back then, like you said, figure if you saw these in your teens, this is the mid 80s or the early 90s.
Mm-hmm.
Even then, that's some groundbreaking cool shit to see. So, like I said, I've always had an appreciation for these. Finding that picture of myself with the DeLorean on the upper tier at Universal Studios reminded me how often I went to that place back when I was that age, and just the love. And they had their own stage show at one point, Jay. I remember this. They had their stage show. The Blues Brothers had their thing in front of that damn diner for, it felt like longer than Belushi was even alive, for crying out loud. You had Lucy had her own thing. You had the Star Trek thing, which is nobody knows that there was there. Nobody remembers that shit except me and a couple of, yeah, exactly. Like nobody remembers that because it was on VHS when you got the thing. And if you didn't keep that thing, your memory got smoked out by being there too many times. So,
Or it got from the freaking MIB.
Right. Oh, God, terrible. But that was.
I need a flashy thingy.
Yeah. Jay, you're a flashy thingy, me. Yeah. But that was the Universal that and yes, there is a gap between our ages, but that's the Universal Studios that we grew up on. Mm-hmm. And it was that we grew up on because of what these guys did 40, 50 years before.
Yeah.
And
awesome. I would go to Universal every year.
Yep.
When my dad would take his 2-week vacation around my birthday, we would do the theme park world tour. And over the course of the 2 weeks, we would do Universal, Disneyland, and Knott's.
Yep. Now
we didn't do Magic Mountain as part of that. I've only ever been to Magic Mountain once. You know that story. It doesn't tie to Universal, so we won't go into that. But those three every year. And there'd usually be a couple days break in between. That way we could recuperate from the long day at one, have a couple days, hit the next one, have a couple days. Okay, now it's the weekend. Cypress swap meet. Oh, it's a Vet Stadium week. Go to Vet Stadium. Okay. We just did that on Sunday. We'll wait Monday because that was a whole Tuesday. Okay, now we're going to that last one. And then you have the rest of the week to just kind of chillax.
And when you keep in mind, viewers at home, that Jay's dad was an educator, and the fact that his birthday is in August, yes, we were still out of school on August 22nd, y'all.
My dad is an educator now. He used to be in retail at that time.
Oh, well, even better.
He was the manager / assistant manager of a secondhand store.
Okay, so when you figure he's got a job that you can't really take time off in summer because it's knuckin' futz.
That's just how good he was.
Exactly. But the point I was trying to make was August 22nd was still summertime.
Mm-hmm.
Because we weren't in school till after Labor Day. So you couldn't wear white, but you could go to school.
That's right.
God almighty.
And if you were wearing white, it's because it was part of the school uniform.
Right. And if you were in uniforms when we were in school, you go back.
Hey. But yeah, I mean, those younger fans watching this, our summer vacation was pretty much about the week before Father's Day until the day after Labor Day. Labor Day was always on a Monday. School would usually be back either Tuesday or Wednesday.
Yeah. And it wasn't one of those things where we would, we would meet the teacher the day before. We went in cold. We had no idea. Parents did because they suck and they didn't tell us shit. But kids had no idea what they were walking into when they got there. You had this class.
For high school, we would go on like Tuesday. We would pick up our schedule of classes, and then we'd have to report to classes Wednesday.
Yep. I mean, just that's it. I mean, luckily for football kids, it was a little bit easier. Yeah.
And that's why I always hated you jocks.
I know. Well, I was no jock. I was just there to get the easy PE grade. Are you kidding me? Give me a break. First hand to God. That's the only reason I played football in high school. Seriously. But anyway, the fact that you were able to see those parks over the course of summer vacation, we did the same thing. Dad and I, and as time went along, my brother also, we did Universal in the summer, and we did Disney in summer and at Christmas time every year without fail. The random picture you guys saw earlier this year of me with a DeLorean was a byproduct of a trip with my aunt and her foster kids at the time, which is why I have faces blurred out. But yeah, just being there and seeing that picture, it's like, man, I remember the monsters, all, not just Frank, because that's all it is now, really, is Frank and Beetlejuice walking around for the scary stuff. So
I think I mentioned this to you before. When I went the last time, I think it was about 10 years ago, I saw Count Dracula.
Yeah.
I have a picture with Count Dracula. If I think about it, I'll lay it over in post. But I have a picture with Count Dracula from the last time I went. And that was only about 10 years ago because they were promoting Hop.
Right.
I remember that. It was around the time Hop came out.
I will send you my my picture with Frank from 4 years ago. God, 4 years ago already. Holy cow. That was the last time I went actually in the park, was when I took Dylan for the first time. It was mainly a Harry Potter trip, but we still saw, I mean, like I said, he recognized Frankenstein's monster. He recognized, Scooby-Doo and Shaggy in their classic outfits. He recognized Lucy, which just warmed my heart to no end. So I think the kids now, as if you're under 18 watching this, first of all, do you have your parents' permission? Because if you don't, go pause and go get that. But I think you guys will appreciate this movie, seeing it firsthand more than I did. Because like I said, I'm 38 years old. I'm very set in my ways. And I still gave it 5 stars because Vincent Price was at the very end. So, I think you guys will like it too. My intent with my tone was not to dissuade you from seeing this. Quite the contrary. And if you have certain apps on your Fire Stick, you can access this movie pretty easily. So I had to do that because I had it on the Roku and now it's gone. So I had to literally go into the living room this morning and fire up the Fire Stick and go, Abbott and Costello meets Frankenstein. There it was on the cinema app. Woohoo! So I watched it, and like I said, I liked it. 5 out of 5, if nothing, for the pure enjoyment of watching and knowing that me watching it was going to make you happy, so we could do this show and go 40 minutes with just me being part of it. So we're going to go over an hour because it's me. I'm on the air with you. So
we always do. It's all good.
But it's all good.
We've still got trailers. We've still got promotions. We still got plugs. As a matter of fact, make sure you guys tune in tomorrow, right back here on the Casa D18 Studios channel, for another brand new installment of Renegades Reviews.
Yes, sir.
When we leap from 1948 all the way up to 1954, and we introduce the next Universal monster we will be featuring, the creature from the Black Lagoon. I'm looking forward to getting into that one because I want to say I've only seen the creature once. A long time ago when I was first getting exposed to the Universal monsters. So I've never seen the sequels to the creature, which there are 2 of them.
Yes.
And it's been probably at least 15 to 20 years since I've seen the original.
Yeah.
So it's going to be interesting to watch that.
I've never had the desire to watch the creature movies. I'm not saying they're bad movies. It's just my fear of water. Not so much. And it's imperative that we get these in now, as the actor who was the Gill Man in all 3 of them
has been very, very ill as of late.
Yes.
They've been suggesting that people send letters, send cards, letting him know how much his performances as the creature meant to them as kids, as grown-ups,
Yep.
whatever.
Yep.
We could have even lost him by the time this goes up.
Right.
Hopefully we won't have. But the way things have been looking, not trying to get jinx anything, but the way things have been looking, be surprised if he pulls it out of 2021. So
Yeah.
thoughts and condolences to him and his family. Riku Browning.
Right.
I hope I pronounced his first
I'm
name
trying to
right.
it wouldn't come in my head. Sorry. I apologize.
Thoughts and prayers to you, and I'm looking forward to getting into your trilogy of films over the next 4 days. I only say 4 days because after the first two, we will be back to Abbott and Costello, because the timeline Abbott and Costello Meet the Mummy falls in between the second and third creature film. So,
yes. And I will say this. I know for a fact the sequels are part of Peacocktober. I'm not sure if the original's on there, but like I said, your Fire Stick's your friend, kids, if you have one. But definitely the sequels are on Peacock as far as I checked last. So.
And the last time I was at Wally World, I know they were selling the 3-pack of the creature films for anywhere between $15 and $20. So there's no excuse for you not to grab these and add them to your ever-growing collection, because hard media is better than digital.
Yes.
If I didn't believe that, I wouldn't have all of this behind me.
Jeff, the fact that you spent a few minutes before we went on the air trying to convince me to rebuy Eddie Murphy's Haunted Mansion speaks volumes of the hard copy love.
That's right. Hey, for $6, just saying.
It's on Disney Plus.
Before we officially sign off, Jeff, is there anything you would like to promote, or would you like to throw up a trailer right here?
I actually would like to throw up something that's going to be happening. Let's see. Today's Friday, the 22nd. So just about 3 weeks, 4 weeks or so. This will be going up on Thursday, not Veterans Day and not Thanksgiving, but right in between. You will see this on the Jeff Meacham Network. Yes, that is why I wore my Mickey shirt, because
like you need an excuse to wear a shirt for Mickey the Mouse.
Yeah, there really is no excuse for me ever to do. I just do it just because.
Wearing Mickey the Mouse, wearing the LA Kings, wearing some form of your shill, your merchandise for the channel, no excuse. Everything else got to be a reason, damn it.
What's funny is I'm trying to think. If this is going up Friday, it's our first full day at sea, because I think we take off like Thursday morning, mid-morning. So this day I'm probably wearing the red Meachamania shirt with this hat. So there you go. Like I said,
that guy on the cruise,
right? Yeah. If you don't see me on this cruise,
you're not looking.
You won't see me. Bright ass red shirt. Yeah. But I will say this. I hope.
And then on Saturday, he'll be wearing his bright ass yellow Meachamania shirt, looking like a big old bowl of Fruity Pebbles.
That's right. Damn Skippy. And you know what? But you know what? I'm going to have a better breakfast, Fruity Pebbles. Tell you what, I'm having cruise food. God damn it. I will say this, though. I hope that as you guys are seeing me here and you see me up in, don't see me until probably Tuesday for South by Sports Bar, because Monday's going to be tough to get home in time. But hopefully when you see me on the sports bar, I will have a fresh Dolph Ziggler already adorned, modeled, if you will, Paradise Kitty shirt, because mine's dated as hell. So let's hope I have a kitty shirt when you guys see me Tuesday, because that's the next time you're going to see me is Tuesday. So
there we go. Jeff, thank you very much for joining me today. Thank you very much for going 46 minutes as of right now with me about a movie that you really didn't get hooked into the way I had hoped for.
No.
Yet you still ended up giving 5 stars to because of the iconic Vincent Price.
Yes, I love it.
I appreciate you joining me here. To all my loyal fans and viewers out there that have tuned in for the premiere, leaving your thoughts and comments all the way over there next to Jeff. Thank you very much. I greatly appreciate each and every one of you. Likewise, all my loyal fans and viewers that tune in on demand later in the day, leaving your thoughts and comments underneath the Frankenstein Monster. Thank you very much. I also greatly appreciate each and every one of you. To all my loyal fans and viewers that have tuned in for the replay on the Jeff Meacham Network, thank you very much. Even though you're not watching on my channel, I still appreciate each and every one of you.
But you suck.
To all my fans that have been going back into the archives, thank you so very much.
Yes.
The old episodes of Renegade of Wrestling, Dad's on Wrestling, After the Bell with Jeff Meacham, Stat Boy Rants, watching all those old shows to try to help boost up my viewership hours so I can eventually get monetized, make some money on this, because that is the goal at the end of the day, is to get monetized. Gotta draw money. Bring it back in next day.
That's right.
Thank you to each and every one of you.
And I will say this: if you're a wrestling fan, and you're a WWE fan in particular, and you're still watching JJ after he closed out Stat Boy Sports Bar with his rant on Tuesday, we especially love you, because he didn't pull no punches. So
no.
WWE, you've been told.
The gloves were off. WWE and its fans.
Yes.
You've been told.
God.
Thank you very much to all of you that have joined us today and tuned in, and we will see you guys next time.